Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Money with Alpha. And I have the lovely Emma Lovell on the show. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you so much. Yes, you got the puns, so well done.
Well, I saw it because we actually only met last week at a Business Chicks online networking event. And to be honest, I really connect. I've been to, obviously over the last few years, I've been to a number of online networking things, but you just did it so well.
Thank
you
you.
you kind of you brought pulled everybody in, you made sure things flowed, and I don't know, it was just done in a really, really good way. And I thought, oh, I need to find out more about this person. And I can't believe I wasn't already following you. But and there's a couple of sort of mutual connections there, like Jade's I've met through another program, and it
Yeah.
all sort of started to come together. And I was part of Business Chicks many years ago and did their leadership immersion program, and I wanted to get back into that world again. So before we go too much down a tangent, introduce everyone to you, Emma. Where did you come from? How do you do what you do? And you have such a beautiful energy, which you can't see on a podcast, but that'll come through with your words. So tell us
Oh,
about
thank
you.
you. Yeah, I love an intro and I love challenging myself to say it differently. So I am Emma Lovell and I am a writer, speaker, coach. I am a traveler at heart and I have managed to combine my love of business and travel and incorporate it so that I've always been able to continue traveling extensively around the world for the past 18 years. So since I was 18 and left school, I didn't really stop. I've run my business for 14 years throughout that time. And so in the past, only the past 4 or 5 months, I've actually kind of realized those are my superpowers. You take for granted those. And so now incorporating that and helping entrepreneurs and people who are at a crossroads or people who are working jobs and just want to include more travel and start living the life they love now. I'm just such a like, no, we're not waiting for retirement. We're not waiting for one day, someday. We don't always get that. So we need to be creating the life that we love, and what that looks like is different to you and I, Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
Getting clear on what that looks like and fostering it and starting it now. And so yeah, I deliver my work through coaching, speaking, writing, but my focus is helping people to live that life that they love.
Yeah. Which is beautiful, because we all, like you said, we all do it in different ways. And yeah, the travel bug bit me very young as well, and I love traveling. And yes, and I one of the things I always do with clients is make sure you have a fun fund. And I was like, and then you have to use it. And I call it fun. Mine actually was always called travel and photography.
Yes.
So but for fun is obviously different for everyone. But yeah, it's definitely, we're young, we live now, we don't know what's coming, so you may as well just enjoy life within the boundaries of the things that you still want to be able to have the money to do.
You
um
have a business, the point is to create freedom and flexibility. And when I started my business, I would probably identify as a freelancer.
yeah
And there were days right now I'm recording, so I've closed the blinds and things. And I'm just like, why am I sitting inside in my office? And I go out to the balcony and I was like, where's the free and freelancer? Like, where's the freedom that I signed up for?
yeah
And then in the next split second, it's like, actually, I'm completely in control of that.
yeah
Um, it doesn't mean that there's not times where you need to work a little more. I mean,
mm.
I was up till 1:30 last night working on a sales page. That's because I'm a night owl and I watched 2 hours of something else crap to get into the zone before I did. But that was my choice, and I
That's the
slept till
definition of
8.
freedom. You
Yeah.
can do that.
So yeah, that's not for everyone. They go, oh my gosh, you're working till 1:30. It's like, well, I kind of went for a swim in the afternoon and like hung out with my son in the middle of the day and I don't know, talked on the phone for 2 hours to a friend. Like, so yeah, then I worked at 1:30. Okay.
Yeah, and that's it. You just work when you want to, how you want to, and it's also nice to be able to work when you're inspired. I
Yes.
tend to get more inspiration at night time as well. During the day is somehow feels more mechanical task kind of driven. And then
Well, your time gets taken today, oh, I've got a meeting, I've got this other meeting. So it's quite hard to, yes, get into the flow zone and the flow state when your times are limited by other people's times or by, child pickup or
yeah,
I don't know. I just think we also just so default to that 9 to 5, even though I've worked for myself. I've started my business in university. So it's
yeah,
like, but it's such a like, weird. And then it's weird because then I love going to India, say, and like their times completely, like they work till 8 o'clock at night. They seem to have different hours of work.
yeah.
I think in this Western world, we are so conditioned to this 9 to 5 that even when you're not in it, it permeates to everyone.
Yeah, because things are open between certain times, and I mean the internet has improved that a little bit, but there are certain things that you have to physically go to, and yes, it's only open from this time or this time, or if you have a problem, they are only open from this time and this time to talk to. And yeah, we are. Yeah, and it always amazes me every time I drive my daughter to school. I'm like, we're all on the road at the same time, going to the same sort of places. And I was just like, why can't we stagger things a bit more?
Yeah.
Just gets a bit nuts. So one of the things you mentioned, which I read about and I wanted to ask you more about. So what made you start a business in uni? And what were you studying? Because you weren't necessarily on a trajectory to start a business if you're at uni.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've kind of like done the most my degree you could actually do, because I studied a Bachelor of Business. So a degree was business. But I mean, within business, you learn, finance, economics, accounting, marketing, and then you pick your major in the second year. So my major was marketing, and marketing and PR. So I went to the communications faculty as well. And I just sort of, I don't know, I think it was once I was in the communications faculty and I thought I could start my own PR company because, Delulu, that's the word of the moment, just a little slightly naive and delusional, but also not, just kind of fearless. And at the time I was from like 19, I started doing promotions work. And so I had an ABN, and you basically acted as your own agent. You basically were a freelancer. So you were part of an agency and they'd say, hey, we have this job handing out stuff at the V energy drinks at a festival, or flyers at the bus stop, or, going to the Coles event and, I don't know, handing out samples. And so you would apply or say, yes, I'm available. And then you had to manage your calendar, manage your, talk rates, all that sort of stuff. So I guess I was already freelancing in a sense. So having an ABN and all that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And if anything, I thought by third year I was a bit behind, having not started my business. But the thing that actually instigated it is I meant to do a podcast episode. I don't know if I did, but I actually broke my back snowboarding.
Oh.
So I couldn't work and I had to cut back on study. And I was like, oh, I guess I have time to start a business. So I bought the name Lovely Communications. I decided, so play on my name, and started the business. And then I just told people I have a business. And once I started working again, I actually was doing some work for the organization my dad was the CEO of. I was doing marketing role that had been created as I gained more skills. And I said, can I just invoice you instead of you putting me on the payroll? And then I had my first client.
Yeah.
So,
that's
I don't know.
Managing through I'm just going to go back to the breaking your back thing, like managing the mindset side of that to then actually get to the point where you're like, oh, I'll just, do a business. Is that just, I don't think that's just youthful naivety, that there's a certain kind of drive in that as well.
Oh, I just had time and headspace. Like I was so on the go. And to be honest, I was probably heading towards, and the following year I pretty much did. Like I was so young, but I pretty much had a mental breakdown in a way. Like I think that was the universe telling me to stop. So it was really nice actually having like an excuse to stop. And it's a horrible thing, but there's still times now where I think, well, if I just hurt, like when I broke my back, or like when I had my son and I had like major abdominal surgery, that's when I got a rest. And it's like, whoa, that's burnout talk. Like if you're thinking I need to physically get very injured in order to have a rest.
Yeah.
But that's where I was, that's where I was at. And it was like, otherwise I was working, I was studying 4 subjects, So it forced me to slow down. And then that's when I had the headspace and the create, like, oh, that's when I could actually think about starting a business. I did better in my subjects that semester as well, because I could actually focus. But then, as I said, then I started the business, finished uni, kept doing the freelance sort of promotions work, bringing in clients. And I was, driving to a job one day, like a year later, and I just basically had a kind of a panic attack and then had to stop work for 6 weeks. I couldn't cope. So it's like, and I would choose the broken back over the mental break any time. So, like I know it sounds weird, but that forcing when we get sick or injured, as much as it's a frustration and a detriment, it's the reminder that we need to rest. And now a big part of my message is rest and receive. I called my retreats that, because I just think we don't give ourselves this time and space away from the day to day, away from the do. In order to think. And if it takes me remembering that broken back and looking at it as a fun time, like, I mean, I was probably on a lot of painkillers, maybe that well, but it was a fun time because I had a rest for the first time in years, and I focused on my body, and then the recovery as well. I was like, that hour of Pilates, that hour of physio, that's my time, and that is for me, and that continued. So I've continued that over the years, that it's like, that's, you know, with a walk, I'll be on my phone, or in the gym, you can still do stuff. But Pilates, where I'm being in a class and being instructed, a swim, can't touch anything. Those are the things where I'm forced to have to focus and go inward.
Yeah. I always like that. I learned to ride a bike when I was in my 30s. And when I go for rides now, I actually put my phone, like I have this little thing I could put it on the handlebars. I don't like putting it there. So I actually just put it in the bag, more for emergencies than anything else. But I was just like, no music, no phone.
Your hands, you have to focus.
I can't do anything with my hands. My mind sort of wanders around. I was on a bike ride this morning, and we've had a lot of rain here in Brisbane. And I was just like, oh, everything's so green again. And I'm just like, I'm noticing nature, whereas otherwise it's like, go. Yeah. But yes, there's some pretty dramatic reminders that you've had an experience, which you've then incorporated into your business as well. So, and then, so how did when you started your business journey, and as you continued along that path, it's a bit of a different thing, because, you know, you don't have superannuation or somebody paying it for you. You don't necessarily have this steady income, and you've bought property, and that. How did all of that kind of come together as a business owner?
Yeah, so it's a lot of feast or famine, you know, sort of mentality. And that's something that I've really worked on in the last few years and continue to work on. It's like, how do I have something that is the stability, and then still, for my nature and my entrepreneur spirit, a bit of the rebel, like, how do I still have that excitement and adrenaline of the thrill of the chase, you know? And I've been, you know, I think it's that thing where when push comes to shove, you're like this is down to me. It's not, no one else is going to pay this paycheck. No one else is going to pay this rent. I need to find work. And so I've always kept that, like I said, the promotion work was fantastic, like having that ability, subcontracting. So I've always had people that I could go to and go, hey, can I take on a contract? Or clients that I know just go, hey, have you got a little something else? So I've always had those relationships and that networking, which you experienced, how valuable that is, that when times are a little tougher, you can go to your network and go, hey, I need some work. And I've always been willing to work. But yeah, I was 2014. I mean, I wanted to, again, I felt I was so behind. My parents told me when I was like 14, they bought an investment property, and they were like, if we knew then, like if we knew when we were your age, what we know now, my goodness. And so that seed was planted then. And I thought when I was like 19 or 20, I'm like, oh, what an idiot, haven't bought a property yet. Just very unrealistic with time zones. And I think you're hearing a little bit of high achiever. But I had this goal for a long time, and then it kind of, the years crept by, and obviously I do the travels and feast or famining. And then I kind of just went, before I'm 30, I want to do it. And was very good at the time. I was doing a contract with World Vision. So I did have a full-time contract, and I went on to sort of that, I guess, stability of having, it was like, oh, wow, I have this big chunk of income while still running my business. I'd also, just as, you know, a side fun thing, started a pet sitting business. So I was also running a pet sitting business at the time. So the year that I got I actually decided to move back in with my dad. I moved back from Melbourne. I was living in Melbourne. I moved from Melbourne to Sydney to save. I know that sounds very weird, but I moved in with my dad with the agreement that I would pay some board and I was going to buy a property.
Yeah.
But then I got the pet sitting thing. So I was barely home anyway. I was literally getting paid to live in other people's houses. I had no costs whatsoever. And so I managed to save $42,000 in space of 6 months, because I was like, this has to happen before I'm 30. Focus. So it kind of became, but, you know, I attribute it to having, it's very hard as a solopreneur, a sole trader, to buy a property. So I'm very thankful for having that contract at the time, because that kind of got it over the line. as well as having early conversations with the mortgage broker and the real estate agent about like what's the bottom line? Because like you're like, I'm buying a $300,000 house, like, but do I need $300,000? Like, no, you don't. You need potentially 30.
Yeah.
Better to have 60.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up buying in an area where I got some grants, so that helped as well.
Yeah.
But and the timing, I thought I wasn't going to make it. And then they went, actually, the grants, they've just introduced a new grant. And so like a local infrastructure grant. So it actually is in my favor to not be ready in that financial year. And then it was like, okay, I need this amount of money over the line. We found the properties, like the development area that we wanted to get it, and just went for it. So, and it was funny, as soon as I got the house, like somebody said to me, well, now you've got the house, you can't travel anymore. And I was actually like, no, I bought the house so that I can travel more. I bought the house so that I have something stable that I know that I can always lean back on. And the funny thing is that's 2016 that I ended up getting it. 2015 I had the contract, 2016 I continued working with them. It's been 7 years now. And I think the thing that in my head that really blocked me this year from a money mindset perspective was that you're told when you buy a house, it's a long-term investment. I mean, but the thing is 7 years went by. And so this year we started to have the conversation about whether I would sell it or not. Because we're moving towards our future goal now of a bigger home for our family. We actually own 2 properties. So my husband bought the house that we live in. I bought the other one. It was very important to me. We were together. It was very important for me to buy that myself. And then I said to him, by all means, you can have that too. We're married now. It's all together, but we own 2 properties. And the view is to buy our future home. But so now we've started, it's like, well, I have no attachment to that anymore. And it's done its job, and the market's good, or the market's done better than we thought. And actually 7 years is a long term.
Well, the cycles run about 7 years anyway, like in most investing cycles. So
I'm in a very fortunate position, and I'm very happy to talk about it quite openly, because selling this house will give me a lot of freedom in 2024 to really focus on this direction that I've shifted to this year. Like, I have been running a business for 14 years. It will be so nice to have some solid cash flow. And you mentioned super, and I'll be honest as well, like I did not pay myself super. I've had super contributed by some of my clients or some of the contracts, but push came to shove. I mean, I chose to invest in a house, and so now I'm looking at that. How do we recontribute, and how do we now structure that moving forward with that investment money? Like, how do I now use that? And this is conversations with financial advisor, accountant, mortgage broker, real estate agent.
Well, the whole purpose, the reason superannuation came into being was because a lot of people hadn't saved. But if you've got a property, then that's sort of helping circumvent that anyway. It's the forced saving. Well, because my dad and I, when I was 26, he was very much in the like invest in property. And I had watched my parents as a youngster just like struggle to pay mortgages. And I was like, no, I don't really want that. But my dad ended up buying this property on my behalf and was going to sign it over. And then I would like take it on. And like, no, I don't want it. He ended up keeping it. And then we clashed on this constantly until came to the realization that he needed that forced saving he wouldn't have saved otherwise. Whereas I was like, I'm fine at saving. Like, I don't need the pressure of a mortgage, but everyone is different. And how you go like get to the destination.
I'm debt driven, people go, why do you waste money? Like, I've read Barefoot Investor and things, and he's like, instead of paying for these high premiums for healthcare, you could just save that money, and then if you needed to get a crown, there's your $5,000 crown. And I'm like, mate, I just wouldn't do it. So the same with travel insurance. Like, if I had something happen, I'm like, I need that forced insurance. And for me, having a property, having something concrete, literally, having a structured payment plan that they've put in place. My car is on a mortgage as well through the business. I love it. It's a different to finance, and that's a benefit of being a business owner, but I like it because I know what the payments are. I know it's over a long term. I'm comfortable with it. I really struggle with then creating my own payment plan. So if there was credit card debt and things like that, I really struggle creating that. Whereas when if they told me, an ATO payment plan, love it. Every month, if you want me to pay you that, like, for a person like me, that works well. Someone else is like, oh my God, how did you not pay that up front? How did you not have the money? It's like, we're different.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as saying, "Oh, now you've bought a house, you can't travel." It's like there's stories that we tell ourselves, and this is one of the things that probably annoys me the most in the finance industry is that there's you do this, you do this, you do this. I was like, well, you could do that, or you could do something else, and as long as you are focused, or you have, like we were talking about focus before we hit record, you have an idea of what you're doing and where you're going. How you get there. Obviously, you don't want to, lose too much money along the way, but how you get there is generally up to you. And because we're not really taught the principles behind it, it's very difficult for people to learn how they personally work, and that's trial and error over years. And
Well, you and
sometimes
I had parents who invested, like, or knew about property or wanted property. And it's like, even a friend I was kind of educating in the past year or so, because she had this thing of, when I pay the mortgage off, then we'll do this. And I'm like, I don't know if you need to pay your mortgage off. Like, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm like, some would say I would take the money from the equity and invest in something else, or use that to work for it. Like, what is that? All that money then just sits in this thing that is only valuable when you sell it.
Yeah.
And that's
if
the
you're
issue I have at the moment. I have a lot of money, but it's locked. It's locked in bricks and mortar. And I need that right now. It's like, we need that money to work for us.
Yeah.
And we still have, we're in a fortunate position, made good decisions, and we still have, one property. So we don't need to. And I was holding on to that attachment of I like being an investor. I like saying I have 2 properties, but it's like, well, if you want to have your dream home, which I keep looking to the right, because I know it's a podcast, but I have on my vision board, the property that we want and where we want to live.
Yeah.
Why do I have an attachment to being an investor and owning 2 properties when we want the house that we want to love living in?
And that's also where seasons of life come in too. We have different priorities at different points in our lives and what we want. And the travel, I did a lot more traveling before I had my daughter than now, but we still do trips and traveling around, and she's seen probably more of the world than I did at that age. So I was like, well, here, we went over to Italy and Germany this year as well, and she's been, anyway, but it's still wherever you're at the point in time that you're at and how you get there. But having like, for instance, when you were saving for the house and you had that motivation, so there was an intense focus and you had a goal. One of the things I find difficult for a lot of people when it comes to saving is they don't necessarily have something that they're that connected to. That's why debt becomes really a lot easier to kind of, because somebody else is motivating you, and you're like, you're going to lose this if you don't pay it. It's a lot easier than if you have a defined purpose. Like my old car was really old, and I knew it was going to die at some point, and I thought, well, I need to save for a new one, because I don't want to, I want to just buy the car, because accountant brain, I can't turn off the depreciation concept. And so, but that worked for me. And then we just bought a Toyota Corolla. It wasn't anything fancy, but it suits our needs.
Yeah.
So and do your own thing and challenge the beliefs.
Like I talked about earning 42,000, saving 42,000, so that's above it. Even in that time, I did an overseas trip. Like, I remember that year, my in-laws said to us, we were going on a trip overseas, and they're like, so you said you wanted to buy a house, but you're going traveling. And I was like, yeah, that money's there. And then that money's there. Like,
can do both.
It's not. And there's a lot of this talk about now rent vesting and stuff like that. And so, like, buying the place where you can afford, and then investing and then renting where you want to live. There's just, it doesn't have to be or.
No.
I think there can be and like you said, what works for you. And after we said we weren't going to bring it up, but these few years where we were limited and we couldn't travel, but also I've got a lot of stuff happening in my family. Someone said to me the other day, what's going to be your word for next year? And I hadn't thought about it, and I just came out and I said travel. And that part of that, selling that house, is going and fully being free and comfortable to go. A percentage of that house is going to the whole trip, and we are going to go on that trip, and I'm going to know that investment I made covered for this entire trip, and we get to just enjoy it. And I'm not going to be checking the balance. I'm not going to be checking the cards. It's just going to be, I'm going to pay it, enjoy it, because I made a smart decision, and I should enjoy my money. Whereas when I first started selling it, I had this fear of wasting it. I'm going to waste it. I've got to, what do I put it into? What do I invest next? Oh, I need to buy the next house so that I don't frivolate it away. And it's like, but travel's really important to me, as we can clearly hear. That's
Yeah.
not frivoling it away. That's precious, precious time with my son and my husband
Yes. And their
that we will never get
experiences.
back. And
Yeah.
that 42,000 over 6, 7 months, I'm in a position that I can make $42,000 in a month, because my earning capacity is higher. And I'm not saying that to be like flippant, but gosh, 10 years ago, Emily would be like, who is this person? Like, I thought I was earning 42,000 in a year,
Yeah.
still traveling the world. But that's years of experience and capacity. And I take bigger
Prioritizing.
risks because I have a stable base. I have a husband who also earns money, that I can take a bigger risk and launch a retreat and make a lot of money off it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the priorities. And this is also that sort of the mentality that kind of came back in that, you can't have your cake and eat it too, or money doesn't grow on trees. There's so many of those. And you're like, well, what's the point of having a cake if you can't eat it? You're just going to stare at it. Like, so I love the idea of
My
challenging
household.
those norms or those previous norms.
Yeah,
So,
it's nice to talk openly about it because it wasn't a conversation, and I'm very happy. And that's been something that I've had to overcome. And on my recent retreat in India, I played the song for everyone, Brave, and then I asked them all, listen to the lyrics and what does the song mean to you? And for me, I said bravery will be me combining these two passions of mine and really doing what I want to do, and supporting people to do what I've been able to do and that I believe is possible. But also like talking openly about income, because I'm going to have to do that, and I want to do that because I think there's this misconception that it's like, when I have the money, or it's all right for Emma, she has all of this. And I'm like, if I showed you my tax returns from the past few years and the ability and the things that I've done, I don't think they match up.
Yeah.
And it's the way that I've done it, and it's the way that I've prioritized it, and the things that I choose to spend my money on. And I'd say like 40-60% of my budget is travel.
Yeah. There's so many comparisons and assumptions that people make, and it's whatever is right for you and the priorities that you make, and it's your money after all. And the preconceived ideas as well of like, oh, we have to be doing this at a certain age, we do this, and if you have this, you got to have that. Like, who cares at the end of the day? Like, as long as you're experiencing, because you can't take any of your stuff with you anyway. Whereas,
and I'm looking at you actually, and I'm thinking like, these earrings I'm wearing, they were gifted to me. The dress I'm wearing, it's my friend's. She didn't want it anymore. I'm wearing that. The ring I'm wearing was my grandmother's. Like, the necklace my husband, I don't think I'm wearing anything that was bought by me. Even I would say, honestly, my bra was bought with Myers points. Like, I used points from my credit card. So like, whereas somebody else might have spent thousands of dollars on the things that I'm wearing, I didn't spend any money. But I'm quite happy. I'll see your airfare for tomorrow for $4,000 to go 4 different destinations, and I'll go, sure, here's my $4,000. And people go, you're crazy. Who spends $4,000 on flights? And I'm like, that's nothing. That's what it is.
That's where your values and your important. Yeah. Because we when we went to Germany this year, my we are a household that loves Lego. And so we went to Legoland, which wasn't the cheapest place to go, but I was like, it was my daughter's birthday, and oh my goodness, and it was such a beautiful experience as well. I was like, I'm so glad we did it. I probably wouldn't do it again, but we've done it now, and it was so much fun. And we didn't really even buy that much stuff when we were there. I think I bought like one set just to kind of have a sort of a reminder when we were at home. But other than that, it's that experience of actually going and being together and having that togetherness as well, and then the memories that go with that. So but there's so many different ways that we can do things. Now, I'm interested in your retreats. How did you get to do them, and what do you do in them, and how do they operate?
Yeah, so I actually went on my first ever official retreat in 2020. I was 7 months pregnant. The most of the world couldn't travel, but Queensland was quite open. And so I went from the Gold Coast to Mission Beach. And amazingly, it actually felt like Sri Lanka. Like, it was just felt so far away. I kept checking the time zone and being like, oh, I can't call Matt now because the time zone's off. And it was like, oh no, it's same time, it's Queensland.
Yeah.
And it was just such a gift. It was a writing retreat. And I said, I mean, if you ask me for my heart profession, it will be writing. So I've always been good with words, and in the next year I'll be writing a book, but I have been paid writer over the years, and I love writing content and stories, and I think anyone could read my stuff and see that it's there. But I loved I got so much more out of it, and what I expected it to be and what it was so different. And I think that people think of retreats, as did I, as wellness retreats and yoga retreats, and that's where our mind goes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying $4,000 to go over to Thailand and do yoga for 10 days. Like, no, thank you, not for me.
Yeah.
So, or it was kind of like, oh, they're a luxury item, yeah, one day. But this was much more affordable than I thought. It was a no-brainer. I took that time for myself, and it was such a gift, like right before, you know, having a child, to have that time solo. And I met some amazing business women on it. But then I was like, yeah, I could totally do this. And I have a background of, I've been doing charity challenges where you go and do treks overseas, raise money for charity.
Yep.
So I've been doing those since 2011. And then I actually started tour managing. So I would, because I had the experience of doing it, I would be the group leader. And so I've been to places like Everest Base Camp, Bhutan, cycling through Cambodia, cycling through Vietnam with 32 Dutch women. I mean, if I can handle 32 Dutch women on a cycling trip, I think I can handle 5 to 10 people in a luxury retreat setting. So yeah, it was like the travel side of it's very conceptually fine for me. And then I partnered. My first one, I partnered with a retreat company, so to help me, and I offer all of my retreats, I partner with a travel company, so they do the logistical side of it, even though I know, but they know rates better, they know packages better. So, and then I'm buying a package of them, a per head package. And so my core thing was about people. I've heard so many people run retreats and they run them at a loss or a break even. I don't do things to not make money. So my first retreat was profitable.
Yeah.
All my retreats have been profitable, and I believe that you can run profitable retreats.
Yeah.
So I just did it, kind of thing. I ran one in Gold Coast 2022, Kangaroo Valley 2023. I've cancelled one twice this year, so it just didn't work out. Again, the profitability and also the intention. And then I just ran my first one in India. So India's my heart country. I've been there 13 times.
I was watching that one because I saw Jade on there. I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't quite get what it was at the time. So they're not just writing retreats anymore though, are they?
No, they weren't ever. So the concept was rest and receive. So I partnered, funnily enough, she actually came on this retreat. I did a sales page course with this lady, and we offered to swap each other coaching. So I did some personal brand coaching. She did some leadership coaching. And I turned up to the call and I was so like overwhelmed. And she said, I think you just need to have a rest. And it was like that message from all those years ago. And she's like, there's this thing called relax and receive. Like, I think you just need to go to bed. And I actually listened. I changed it to rest and receive. So I was like, I went to bed, I had a rest, I woke up, and there were 3 opportunities in my inbox. It was like, the universe is like, just chill out, I got you, you know? And I think we're so afraid that if we're not doing, we're not taking action, and we're not always driving, that then things stop. When I've realized, like, especially over the last few years, like the momentum and the energy I've put in over these years, it will keep going, and that it's okay for me to take some time out. And sometimes that stop, not even stop, that pause or reset or slow down allows you to refocus on what you really want. And so rest and receive was about people taking the time out of their day-to-day to come to focus on themselves, to focus on who they are and reconnect to who they are. And on my first retreat, a woman flew from Perth to Gold Coast. It was the first time. She's traveled a lot, but it was the first time she'd left her children, and they were 4 and 2. And I just am so honored that she chose to do that. And then 6 months later, she gave me a call because she had been invited to a conference on the Gold Coast. And she's like, me coming on that retreat opened the door to seeing that it was okay, me choosing to invest in myself. And then, I don't know, it's like the client had almost connected the dots, got, hey, we've got do you want to come to this conference? And so paid for her to come over. And it reopened that door for her. And I was like, that's the receiving. You chose to rest, you chose to invest. Now you get to receive opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So where's your next retreat?
Well, I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm literally announcing it in the next 2 days, and it's why I was up till 1:30 a.m. But the next one is in Sri Lanka, November 2024.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh, yeah. Well, this will come out it'll still be in December 2023. So
There you go. So there's,
it'll,
yeah, I invite you all, 12 spots max. Jade will be coming along again to capture content.
mhm.
And by then we'll have announced, so I may as well say it here too, just a few days later, if people want to do a double whammy, or they're not so keen on Sri Lanka, but they want to do what we did and saw how amazing Kerala, India was,
Yeah.
Jade and I are going to run a content creation retreat in Kerala, India. So
Wow.
we had so much fun taking photos and videos, and you should have seen her. She woke up in the morning and she was like a little puppy at the window, little kid on Christmas Day. She was so excited and invigorated. And, and I said that to her, like, I think you're going to have so much fun as a photographer and as a sort of anthropologist. It's just such a feast for the senses, and so many ideas. And so then, but just such a playground in terms of content creation. I mean, the doors in the hotel alone, we were making so many reels. So that's what we thought we could teach people. We'll have a planning workshop in the morning. So hers that's more of a sort of, you can see that business connection doing it. My retreats are more of they're targeted at business owners. But, I had someone who's working in full-time employment. I have people who come in like a crossroads in their life, people who are running side businesses, who want to, I don't know, just people who want to kind of do something for themselves, really.
Yeah. Challenge the status quo. I think there's like a common theme throughout all of this, as well as, and do it authentically.
It's the antithesis. And I think that for me, it's like removing people from their day-to-day. And I will continue to run Australian ones. I haven't fixed on the dates. Like, it sort of looks like probably 2 Australian ones. I'm also running a mini retreat. So that's in January on the Gold Coast to teach people how to run retreats. Because I was setting up a course and doing it online. And then I went, wait a minute, like, you need to be in a beautiful location to plan a retreat. So I'm hosting it at the Langham Gold Coast. I'm like, oh, nice. You should be sitting in a fabulous place, dreaming up. That's how I dreamed up India. I was on a houseboat. I was in that hotel. I was like, this is the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
4.5 years later, I was back there.
Yeah. Tap into it and just let it flow. I love it. Yeah. So we'll put in the show notes, we'll put the link so people can find out about you, find out about retreats that you have, and just figure out how they can get more in touch with themselves and with your help and guidance as well. So I think that's really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely. It's so refreshing as well, because there's so much that we do without really being overly present or conscious, and doing that in a way that is not just authentic, but is helping us tap back into the person that we perhaps once were and we've sort of lost along the way.
Yeah. And I mean, if we tie it back to the money thing as well, like, it can flow so much more easily than when you're pushing it.
Yes.
And doing the things that you think you need to do in order to make an income, or doing work in the way that you think you need to work, because that's, like you said, the status quo, it's the way it's done. Yeah. I just think there's so many ways, and what I've seen time and time again in my own life and with my clients is that when you are true to you and you follow your path, like, people can see the excitement, they can see, they can feel the energy, they're going to pick up on that vibration, and they want a piece of that. Yes. So you're going to be far more successful when you actually decide to do what you want first, not what the market wants.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I look forward to learning more, and I'd love to come on a retreat too. So I'm going to
catching up. We're down the road. Yay.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening as well. And enjoy the rest of your day and week.